In this video, we're going to be talking about how do we find the line of best fit using a ti-84 calculator, and how do we use that to make predictions about the correlation that's going on. So here we have a scatter plot here. It clearly looks like it's like a line and it's going down, but we're going to go ahead and find the actual line of best fit that best fits this line in order to use it to make predictions. Okay, so before we begin, we are going to basically take these individual points and we're going to put it in our calculator. So I highly suggest, in order to just kind of keep track of your points, because you have to list out all the x's and then all the corresponding y's, is to just go ahead and list out all of the points that you have. Even if it's like writing it on the graph or on the side, it's just going to be helpful. So I'm just going to go ahead and list. Okay, so we have our first point right here, which this point is 30, 180. And then the next point right here, that's in between 30 and 60, so it's 45. Comma 150. And then we have here this point right here, which is 90, 120. And then we have this point right over here, which is 120, comma 90. And then the next point that we have is right here, which is 150, comma 120. And then the next point right here is 180, 90. And then we have 210, 60. And the last point is 240, 80. Okay, if you have these written down on a list somewhere, it's just going to help you to input it into your calculator. Okay, so now let's talk about how do we put it on our calculator. So the steps are right here in your notes as well if you're following along. So that way, if you ever need to go back and think about what are the steps, you can also look back at your notes. So we have here, this is our calculator, so just make sure it's on. So the first thing that you're going to do is you want to make sure that your mode is on. Just if your mode for stats is not on, you're going to get the line of best fit, but you're not going to get the R value. And so the other thing that we do want to get is we want to get the R value, because we want to see how strongly correlated it is, so we can see how much we can trust this. So we're going to come here, we're going to go here to mode, and we're just going to find where it says stat diagnostics. We're going to scroll, just keep pressing this arrow key down until we find it. So this is where my stat diagnostics is. It's actually on. I already turned it on, but if you reset our calculator or you start from scratch, it's always going to be off. So you're going to want to make sure that this is on. So just press on. After you're done with that, you're going to want to quit out of this. The way you quit out of this is you press second, which is this blue button right here, and then mode. And then that's it, you're out of there. Now we are going to want to go ahead and input our table of values into the calculator. So we're going to press stat, and then we're going to press edit and enter. That's the first one. If you have anything written in your table, which if you haven't reset your calculator, you probably do, you're going to want to clear this out. Do not press delete. If you press delete, you're going to erase the L1 and the L2 title, and that's going to drive your calculator kind of nuts and not be able to do what you want to do. So you're going to press clear, and then you're going to press the arrow key down. So again, you're going to come here to the top, you're going to press clear, and press the arrow key on the top if you have anything. Okay, now it's completely cleared and I can input my values. So on this column right here, I'm going to input my x's, and then on here I'm going to input my corresponding y's. So my x's that I had here were 30, and then I'm going to press enter. Then I have 45. I'm going to press enter again. I have 90, press enter again. 120, enter. 150, enter. 180, enter. 210, enter, and 240, enter. Okay, so again, I'm just looking back at the points that we wrote down beforehand. Now we have to put the corresponding y value, so make sure that the x aligns with its y value, so you just can't go ahead and put it randomly. That's why I made you list out the points. So 180 would be the first y value, then 150, then we have 120, then we have 90, then we have 120, then we have 90 again, then we have 60, and the last point that we have was 240, 30, so 30 is the last y value. And that's it. Okay, once you have this, just double check that like you didn't put an extra 0 or anything like that, because clearly if you put a 12 instead of 120, it's going to give you a different outcome. Okay, after you have inputted your table of values, we're going to tell the calculator to give us the line of best fit and the R value. So you're going to come here to stat and press stat again. And instead of edit, because we don't want to edit the table, we're going to go to calc, which means calculate. We're trying to find the line of best fit or the line of regression. So that's number 4. Later on, we're going to talk about different types of functions. So we would be using 5 and 6, just because these are different types of functions. But right now, we're trying to find the linear regression. So we're going to press enter, and then we're going to go ahead and press calculate. And there you go. You have your line of best fit. Okay, now let's learn how to kind of read this. So if this is my line of best fit, which is y equals ax plus b, we're always going to get it in slope-intercept form. A is going to be your slope, and b is going to be your y-intercept. So if I were to write this line, it's going to be y is equal to negative 0.598 x plus 184.63. I usually just round up to the nearest 100th value, so honestly the slope, you could have just written it, so if you round up, this would actually just go to 0.60. You don't necessarily need to do this, but I honestly like to just, that way we can compare our values pretty easily. So that's going to be my my equation in slope-intercept form. And then after you have this, you want to look at the R value. So not the R squared value. The R value here tells you how correlated it is. So right now this is really close to 1 and it's negative. So I have a negative strong correlation. Okay. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you have found this tutorial helpful.